I know some people who are artificially intelligent.
Remember your risk analysis.
That's right. I skipped that part.
You just need to back up, Jack.
That's okay. I'm not married to him anymore. Ow.
All right, so moving right along.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's weird being in the afternoon.
Yeah, not just that, but we just got finished with another call before this one, so
I know we're already sick of each other.
Yeah, so we have to do our thing.
Yeah, rip off the Band-Aid, get it going.
I know. So is this it? Is this the episode?
The episode.
This is happy birthday, right?
Yeah, we can sing something. We can act like we're excited. Wow, I was going to get you a present.
I have yours. I just have to bring it to you.
Yeah, okay. Next time I see you.
So Bo.
It is our anniversary, darling.
So Bo, you'll have to play some good anniversary happy birthday music. The podcast is officially 3 years old.
There you go.
It's so exciting.
It's our birthday.
I know. If anybody wants to send birthday gifts, you can send them to David Sims. We'll give you my address because people will show up.
I know. Not the ones you want, right?
But anyway.
So yes, this is officially the end of the third year. Next episode will be the beginning of the fourth year. And, we thought maybe we would try to do a year's worth when we started this.
Did we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we said, well, we're going to try because you made me commit because I was like, I don't know. And we had hoped that we would get 1,000 downloads in our first year.
Yeah, I know. That's funny when you look back. How many? It's like, what?
Yeah, that's the first month.
I know. It went crazy. Now it's like, if we don't get 1,000 a day, we're like, what's wrong?
Oh, geez. Like you even look. You don't even know.
I know because you tell me.
Well, thanks for all you guys out there listening. And we just got an email, actually, today.
Yeah, we did.
That you have from a listener who's a brand new listener.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome.
Yeah, it was Beth out of the big old Fort Wayne, Indiana. And so Beth writes, Donna and David, I don't know why they always put your name first.
Because they should.
I recently discovered your Help Me with HIPAA podcast, which I'd love to know how that happened. Thank you. The episodes are so informative and entertaining with a big old smiley face. So you can thank Donna for the informative and you can thank me for the entertaining. I am interested in attending the HIPAA boot camp. Woo woo.
Put me on your list.
I know you recently completed one. However, I would appreciate being on the list for the next one, virtual or in person. So Beth, you are on the list.
Yeah. And speaking of the list.
Yeah. Speaking of the list, we have tentative dates. We have
a tentative. Oh, God, jinx on you.
All right. So go ahead. What's the tentative date we have?
July 19th and 20th, a Thursday and a Friday. So you can come enjoy the heat in the ATL and, plan a nice little vacation weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's lots to do here. And right down the road here is Stone Mountain Park. It's the number one thing to do with out-of-towners when you live here in Atlanta. Anyhow,
nice.
That's what we're getting confirmation on the facilities. And if that rolls, then as long as David can get a kitchen pass, we're going to do it.
Kitchen pass. See, last time we had a live boot camp, I have to tell on myself. Actually, it's the first time we have, not the last one. So they bring around this menu, and it's got the entrees and appetizer and all this stuff. So
it's a lunch menu.
Yeah,
pick.
I didn't realize that I was supposed to pick one thing.
What you wanted for lunch.
I picked everything.
He picked one in every category. Like he had to. Like we were going to make him chow down.
I know. So they start bringing this food out. I'm like, holy crap. What am I going to do with all this food? And
It's a 5-course lunch
I know,
with David.
I was like, good grief. But I wasn't the only one. There were a few other people that almost did the same thing. The difference was I think they asked somebody first, whereas I just like started marking stuff. So I had like, $80 worth of food. So that was not good.
Yeah. We took that out of his pay. Don't you worry.
I know. I made $20 that whole weekend. So, anyway, so if we do when we do the menus for you guys who show up, pay attention because I will make fun of you if you make the same mistake I did.
Don't worry. We'll make fun of David every time.
Yeah, I know.
So if you want to make sure we've got people on the list, and if you want to make sure that you get the mailing first, because we're going to have we're trying to figure out a name for it, the earliest bird pricing.
I like the other one better. We have the worm pricing, then the early bird pricing, since the early bird had to come before the worm. I mean, no, the other way around.
Yeah, get it. The early bird gets the worm, but okay, never mind.
Either way,
anyhow,
we're going to reward those.
We haven't gotten anywhere from our early episodes to now. We've made no progress. So we've got fun stuff to talk about today, and we're confused.
So anyway, if you want to get on the list, if you want to know more about it, you can go to thehippabootcamp.com and learn more about it. If you want to get on the list, email us at contact@HIPAA for MSPs. No, excuse me. Help me with HIPAA. This is the wrong show. Contact@helpmewithhipaa.com. Phew, this is going to be a long.
We're both very tired.
This is going to be a long episode. So contact@helpmewithhipaa.com. If you're interested, get it on the list. We'll get you some information out. If you want to know more about what happens there, at least the informational stuff, it is at thehippabootcamp.com. We won't tell you about what happens after the boot camp. You have to be there for all that fun.
There you go.
All right. So that brings us to what we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm. I would like to shout out to all of the folks at the JAWS conference and the Georgia MGMA conference. I had a blast, and that's part of the reason I don't have a voice. So shout out to all you folks. Whoop, whoop. Great time. Thanks. All right. So we have one that David just got tickled when he read it, and we have to cover it.
Well, it kind of ties into the topic.
It does. It does. So
but
go ahead. Tell them how much fun you had giggling.
Well, I love going through all the information each morning in my inbox and otherwise. And, sometimes you just find something that's kind of funny. Most of the time I'm slapping myself in the forehead like, oh my gosh. But this one was kind of funny. So the heading of the article says, employee fired for HIPAA violation gets personal data from agency. So I was like, what? So apparently, allegedly, a lady, Tracy Ryans is her name in the article, a former employee of the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, was fired for an alleged HIPAA violation recently. And then she received a box full of state assistance applications chock full of personal information from this very employer that fired her. So,
well, yeah. And she says she got 2 boxes, one that had stuff from a desk that she shared with other employees. So, okay, we'll go with that. And the other contained applications with all this personal information on it.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody messed up somewhere, but what was the line that you're like, well, first of all, the the quotes were pretty funny. It's a violation because I didn't know what to do with this stuff.
That makes it a violation, right?
That makes it a violation. So then they said that she had to return the box with the applications and they could arrange for a box to be picked up at her house. Instead, she went with a representative of the state employees union to the office with the box. She was making it, I guess having her Sally Field moment. Like,
Yeah, she wasn't taking no chance. Well, you know she's sitting there going, "You just fired me for this, allegedly doing this, and you do it, and you do it too."
I love the quote. I mean, it was they even got the Southern part in there. You tell me I've been in violation of HIPAA, but then y'all turn around and send me something and do the same thing that I've never done.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this. Apparently, no one at the agency saw the irony of the error.
Yeah, I know. That's what made it so funny. It's like,
yep, it was.
But that kind of brings us back around to the topic today that we'll be discussing, which is why the risk analysis matters, or maybe how to fail the risk analysis would be a good topic.
Well, we talked about in the audits and in every investigation that the risk analysis is done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They failed to do a complete and thorough risk analysis, or they couldn't show that they had done a proper risk analysis, or there's cases where they haven't done one at all. And, we've talked about it multiple times. We even have an episode on how to do one, but HHS said, and it's not, ironically, they didn't do here's how to do one, because apparently they'd done that several times and they have documents and all these other things. So they thought, let's try this. Yeah. So they say what's the difference between a risk analysis and a gap analysis? Basically trying to show, I believe, I don't know about you, most people bring a gap analysis to a risk analysis fight. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's probably what brought it on.
Yeah. It's trying to say, look, this is what they can't do it that way, because they're attorneys and all that kind of stuff. But most of the time, I don't know, how many of us have seen it, but I can tell you that when we ask for, have you done a risk analysis, risk assessment, and I'll get either there's blank looks or they'll give us a spreadsheet or one time I even got a very pretty well-prepared notebook, 3-ring notebook, and open it up, and it's the spreadsheet printed. But it always says, have you done a security risk analysis? Yes. Okay. Those are questions, but that's what people are doing wrong. They're doing the gap analysis versus the risk analysis.
So you're going to be able to tell us what the difference is there?
Well, I just go look at the newsletter for OCR and we're done for the day.
All right. So
no, but the big difference that most people run into is they'll get these tools, and these tools will say, basically, are you doing all the things you're supposed to do in HIPAA? Mm-hmm. They'll say, this regulation 45 CFR 164 308 A1 IIC says you're going to have a sanction policy. Do you have the policies and procedures documented, created? Do you have them implemented? If so, good, you're good to go. If not, you've got a gap in your requirements that you're not meeting. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, that's what most people think a risk analysis is it goes through all the HIPAA requirements and says, do I have a policy and procedure? Can I show I'm doing it? And even then, they're not quite sure, or they don't even wonder I got a policy and procedure. I'm good to go.
Yeah. I bought some.
I got it. I got it from my association. And then, at the conference when I was speaking, and I showed the audit ratings that we reviewed a few episodes ago with we talked about it over and over, that they came out with these in the phase 2 where you got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which ironically enough matches perfectly to A, B, C, D, F, mm-hmm. and a grading scale, and just depends on when you went to school. I got a 1. I got an A. I'd rather have an A. Anyway, the room, I show them what an A would be and the description of it, and they are all like, yeah, I think I got that. Then I show them what a B would be. Oh, well, maybe I'm a B. Then I show them a C, and they're like, "Oh,
No, that's where I'm at.
I'm definitely a C." And then I show them a D, and the phrase in there is policies and procedures come directly from an association template, and training is generic and poorly documented. And you could hear a gasp in this big ballroom. It was like the entire ballroom went, I have a D.
Like, dang it.
I was like, I'm not even going to talk about an F. Okay, let's just don't talk about an F. And everybody's like, I think. But what was funny is one guy, I said, does anybody, I didn't even try to say, does anybody, have a D or an F? I said, does anybody think they have an A? Crickets. B? And I said, C. And over in the corner, there's this one guy, he would like raise his hand and put it down. Raise his hand and put it down. I was like, we have an indecisive C. We'll go with a C- over here. But it's that same thing that I have these policies and procedures because that was something I had to do to check off this list, which I thought was my risk analysis.
Right.
And there, it's a slow, painful process to learn that this is not check the box kind of stuff. It's not simple paperwork, and that's the way it's been treated that way for so long.
Yeah. Well, you got people that are running around too, and they're kind of telling people, hey, we're doing a HIPAA risk analysis for you. And it's not.
It's a gap analysis.
Yeah, at best it's a gap analysis. Sometimes it's not even that. It's a technical security analysis. It's very, very different from that.
Well, yeah. And so in the OCR document, which of course we'll link to, but it defines it clearly that a risk analysis is a comprehensive
Mm-hmm.
evaluation of a covered entity or business associate's enterprise to identify the EPHI and the risk and vulnerabilities to the EPHI.
Mm-hmm.
It is then used to make appropriate modifications to the EPHI systems to reduce these risks to a reasonable, appropriate level.
Right.
The gap analysis is typically a narrowed examination of to assess whether certain controls or safeguards required are actually implemented. It can also provide a high-level overview of the controls in place. And so we do the risk analysis and we do the gap analysis, and then we put all that in a big pile and go, here you go. Here's what it looks like. And that's when people go,
yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So
well, the gap analysis, correct me here because I know you will.
I'm ready.
The gap analysis is something that would be more beneficial to do kind of between maybe the risk analysis type events.
Well, it kind of, when you're doing the risk management part, the gap analysis kind of goes hand in hand with it. Because when you say, well, here's all the things that could go wrong and all the things I need to do to protect it, what kinds of things am I going to do to protect it? Well, let me make sure I'm doing all the HIPAA things first.
Mm-hmm.
There's your gap analysis.
And we talk about doing mini risk analysis. Would you consider a gap analysis the same or is that different?
Different.
Okay.
Moving along. Well, the mini risk analysis is still the same thing. When the big difference is a risk analysis can be done by anybody, whether they need HIPAA or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a meeting this morning with a startup company who's bringing me in to say, they're not in healthcare. Their data is not even, but they feel certain because of what they're doing, they're going to be a target and they want to be proactive, not reactive.
Mm-hmm.
So they're building into their company from the beginning cybersecurity, and we're building in the cybersecurity framework, NIST cybersecurity version 1.1. Woo woo! It was a birthday present to me, and we're building that in. And part of that is to do a risk analysis. So it's that thought that a risk analysis is something that's only required under HIPAA is the first thing that matters. Is once you separate that and say it's not a HIPAA thing, it's a risk management thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to identify stuff I want to protect.
Right.
So all the things I want to protect. It's like David says, he does a risk analysis on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Almost daily, especially when I open my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's whether or not I can control, but we do it on a regular basis. It's that decision of, in my cybersecurity class, and I'm teaching risk management, and in the boot camp when we're teaching it, it's a simple process. Here's a busy road, and then next to, as another example, here's one you can't see a car for miles out in the desert. And if I told you on each road, I want you to put on a blindfold and walk across the street, would you do it? Well, David would do it on both.
Hey, y'all, watch this.
Hold my beer. But the concept is the same. You're going through a risk analysis. You're identifying, what do I want to protect? My body.
Yeah.
It's made of tissue and what could go wrong? I could fall down, scrape my knees because, I'm just walking and blindfolded. But the big issue is a car could hit me. Well, a bicycle could hit you, a motorcycle could hit you, a car could hit you, a bus could hit you, and all of those are different risks, different levels of risk. But when I make that assessment in my quick thinking self, assuming that it's not me and David on the road going, hold my beer, I'm doing that risk analysis, and some people will say, yeah, because I don't know about you, David. I would probably cross the street with I can't see anything coming for 2 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Except I would want to make sure that I look first, and I can't see anything coming because those Teslas, man, you can't hear a thing. As it runs over you. So you do have that, but you make those decisions, and there are plenty of people who are like, no way, I'm not doing it either way.
Yeah. I will outsource that.
Yeah, I will outsource that. I will put on the blindfold, and then I will hire a business associate to hold my hand across the street.
There you go.
And I will accomplish the goal and get what I need done, you see. So that is the process. But I'll tell you another thing. You go to the one where, I was just in downtown Atlanta at Georgia Tech picking up my nephew, the crap he's leaving from his dorm room here over the summer. It was insane. And everywhere you look, there's people walking out in front of you. I was afraid to drive, not walk. And, but if I were to say, I'm going to put on a blindfold and walk across the downtown connector in Atlanta, no way. I'm not doing it. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm not, that's not even out there. It's not even hold my beer. I ain't even going over there that close. So that is, I've determined the risk is way too high for the return I'm going to get on trying to do that. Mm-hmm. And there's way more possibilities of things can go wrong. That's a risk analysis. That's all it is. So we define what we want to protect, and that's called scope.
Right. That's kind of your first thing.
Well, that's your scope. Well, everybody says we need to define a scope. The scope is, what do we want to protect?
Right.
I'll give, I say I want to protect me, but David, I'll shove in front. That's
she will too.
So the scope is me, not him, right?
Right.
But I'm the primary scope. He's the secondary scope. Maybe that's the way we look at it. And you said you said it. It's like most organizations. They have data that you've got your PHI. Mm-hmm. It's clearly very, very valuable. We have to protect it. But I also have other things that are valuable to me that I don't want out in public. Mm-hmm. My emails and messages and how many people have gone downhill because they email and send out these awful, stupid jokes thinking they're funny. and then it ends up out there for the whole world to see. That's called improper risk analysis.
Yeah, and don't think having your own mail server in your house will get you by either.
No, nothing. It's a risk analysis.
So
see, there was risk evaluated, but it was not complete and thorough risk. It was protecting one thing and didn't think about another.
But this is kind of, when you get into the scope of it, this is where some people kind of stop. They argue that, I don't create it, I don't receive it, I don't maintain it, I don't transmit it. It doesn't apply to me, which in some cases that's true, but in other cases, they're trying to make an excuse as to, why that HIPAA doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, I even had I had an administrator of a group send me something saying, I don't understand who I should, what am I missing on my business associates? My IT vendor doesn't access my EHR, so they're not one. And I'm like, wrong.
Back up. Yeah.
It's maintain.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think about what maintain means.
Yeah.
Say, where is the things that I need to protect and where do they live?
Right.
That's it. Define your scope. I'm going to go find every place that PHI exists and anything else important. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I would reconsider that and maybe throw in a few other things while you're doing it. There's nothing that says I can't include other things in my protections.
Right.
So scope.
And as you're doing the data collection part, that's where we always have these great stories about what people miss.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the computers and the servers, and that's normal stuff. But what people sometimes skip or don't think about are all the Internet of Things devices and other electronic equipment and the what do you call them now? The computers that make phone calls.
Computers that make phone calls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then all the network equipment and other physical locations. And, we got a person
printers.
who works from home. Yeah, printers. We got a person who works from home, or we got, God forbid, the CEOs work from home and they, for some reason, don't think you should, secure your home as a business.
Yeah.
It's
I need access to everything, even though I don't use it. I'm going to use one login, not multiples. There's all these things, but that's your scope. And it's not just mouthwash, people. So you define all the things that are out there, and in the cybersecurity framework, that's called identify.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do your data collection part, which is you're inventorying all those places that all the things you want to protect live, move, and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's, where do they live? How do they move around? Who picks them up and carries them? How do they move from place to place? And that's something that's often overlooked as well is, I've got 20 different data connections going on with a variety of different services and no one's stopping and looking at them. Those are things I should worry about. I should evaluate all of my data interfaces. I should evaluate data that's going out as well as what's coming in. It's the Target thing.
Mm-hmm.
Target got hit by the heating. The HVAC folks had the ability to drop off something. I think it was invoices or something on the network, but they had a connection so they could send things in, and that's how that got in.
Yeah.
How they got infected.
And stuff is all over computers. I mean, you and I talk about this all the time, how people say, well, I don't have anything on my computer. And most of the time, you can just go straight to their desktop or to my documents folder or something like that, and you'll find stuff. But
downloads.
Yeah, downloads. But often, there's even things even beyond that. I got a tool that we use in our IT company that goes out and looks for, it calls it, PII. It doesn't do, PHI specifically, but it looks for any kind of personal identifiable information. And when we first got this tool, I ran it on a laptop that I had, just use it personally. And it found 3 different credit card numbers in a temp file somewhere, like buried deep down in Windows. And it wasn't something I put in there and saved. It was something that Windows grabbed from somewhere and saved.
That's sloppy programming stuff.
So I had 3 different credit card numbers that fortunately this software found, and I got rid of them. But that just goes to show that unless you've got some type of tool or professional company to come in, you're probably not going to find all the information that's in those systems. So assume that all of them are loaded with data.
Yeah, the proliferation of PHIs, what they say is the number one problem.
Mm-hmm.
Really and truly is, first of all, I don't define all the places that exist. I kind of skip the scope and data collection part.
Yep.
Which is, if I don't do that right, nothing else is going to matter because I'm leaving stuff out. I leave out an entire wing of a hospital or an entire department of a university that has access to PHI. Those have happened. And so, we just like I leave out network printers. We don't have to worry about those. They're not wireless. We're okay. No, you've got to sit down and prove to me that none of the things, can happen. So first of all, I got to know where it all is and gather all of my information about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I say potential threats and vulnerabilities, basically what could go wrong. Holes, flaws, weaknesses, poor implementation, something gets configured incorrectly. I mean, how many times do we hear those stories where IT folks are just testing something and they turn the one little protection off, and then the next thing you know, that's being used against you because they forgot to turn it back on.
Oh, yeah. Or an update happens and the update switches something off or on or whatever. And, you can't assume that, well, I'd set it up right. It's good to go. There's no such thing as fire and forget technology.
No. And yes, artificial intelligence, everybody talks about how it's going to do great things. And yes, it will. But at some point, a human starts it.
I know some people who are artificially intelligent.
Remember your risk analysis.
That's right. I skipped that part.
You just need to back up, Jack.
That's okay. I'm not married to him anymore. Ow.
All right. So moving right along. After we've done all of this data collection and we know all the places that things are, then we sit down and say, what are the technical as well as the non-technical things? Don't just worry about the technical things. That's another problem.
Mm-hmm.
We worry about things, like
dumpsters.
Well, that's a good example because we have cases where they would write on the box, do not throw away, because they'd be working with something and, they don't want to throw it away. But the cleaning service comes in and they don't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
So do not throw away is what pretty pictures on the,
Yeah.
They don't know. So we've had that actually be an issue before.
Yeah. I had a call a couple weeks ago, a lady who was scanning a bunch of paper documents and putting them in, all this stuff. And, great. I'm glad you're doing it. And basically she said, I'm just gonna take all these files back to my home office and scan them all in because I got better equipment there. Oh,
This is where you do a mini risk analysis.
Yeah. and to her credit, she did understand the complexities and the problems that brought on. And she actually had, believe it or not, she had a box in her trunk that was something she put files in and locked it. It was like a safe, big, huge safe just for documents. So she apparently has done this before and she understood, the best way to protect the data. So I was impressed. But also scared, but impressed.
It's some of the things like the one of the things people will ask us why we have it, because we have like 100 and something items on the list of threats and vulnerabilities to worry about. And it's like a flu epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why would I need to worry about a flu epidemic? Why would that be a vulnerability or a threat? Well, I don't know about you, David, but whenever the person that normally does a job isn't doing that job and someone else is doing that job, things often go horribly awry.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a flu epidemic so that all of my main people can't even sit up and work, what's going to happen to the rest of the stuff?
Yeah.
If I got 3 people showing up and 2 started last week,
Wow.
It's that can happen. And we want you to think about it. Now, is that likelihood high? No, not necessarily. It depends on your environment. Everybody gets the flu shots, I hope, in some of these, peds. Oh, please. They're like, give me 15 shots. I don't care. Give me one from every region. But when you worry about everything that can go wrong, that's where you're really saying, now I know what I want to protect. Let me see what could go wrong and evaluate all of them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. And I want to know what's the likelihood of it happening. And if it did happen, then how bad would it be?
I got another one for you, a good one for you. Just read it earlier in the week, somewhere over in Europe. This has a little town, and all these sirens go off when there's an emergency. Apparently, there was a data center very close to one of those big, huge sirens that go off when there's sirens. They go off whenever there's some type of natural whatever going on. I don't know. Anyway, so the sirens go off, and it's so loud that it causes vibration in the data center. The internal hard drives that are spinning disk start having a minute amount of vibration, and it causes all of them to go into like a lockdown safe, mode so they don't have head crashes. And the entire data center goes down because
of a siren.
Because of the siren. So if you got any sirens near your computers, it could cause them to crash.
Yeah. It's things that people, dream them up and they're like, why am I even worried about that? It's to show that you've thought it through and you've decided whether or not you're going to worry about it. That's what you want to do, is you want it to trigger things. You want to show what you're thinking of. What are all of these different things that could happen, and how much of those do I think I'm going to accept that risk versus make a plan for that risk? And that's what the whole risk analysis process is, is, well, one of the things that, we went through is we did this risk analysis, and we gave it and say, look, a lot of this is business decisions. So we take you through a few of them. We say, here's how you go about it. And videos, documentation, all that, and they still call. But we write a document, we do a video, and we do a phone call. Still don't know how. But in the process of doing that, you're supposed to say, well, okay, David, for example, if you see being hit by ransomware,
mm-hmm.
and I'm supposed to determine the likelihood, and the likelihood is virtually not going to happen, absolutely not going to happen, all the way up to almost certain to occur.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say the likelihood is? It certainly wouldn't be not going to happen.
Yeah, I would say it's probably up there at almost certainly to occur,
right.
Or right below it.
Exactly. But we'll have people who then will say, well, that's not going to happen because we've got protections in place. So we don't even want to consider it. No, that's not what you do.
You don't want my analogy on that one.
Uh-oh. Well, the thing that we keep reiterating is we don't plan for things to go right. We plan for things to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have ransomware listed on there, it needs to have a high likelihood. It also has to have a high impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it shuts the whole business down, could make us lose everything. It's kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
And then you define the risk, which is likelihood times impact equals risk. It's called math. Math is in everything. But once I've defined that risk and I know what I have in place, so that security measures that are in place and the exploits that could happen to me and all of those kind of things. And then I decide now, well, what am I going to do about that? I'm going to write up a document that says, here's all the things I've considered. Here's all the things that I feel like are risk I'm willing to accept. These are the things that are risk I need to plan for. And here's how I feel like I'm doing on that now because I've evaluated my current security measures. And on that, we say, well, we'll say, what's your maturity level? And everybody was like, we got this. And then I had to make a matrix that said, okay, let's make sure that you meet all these requirements to say that you're good to go. And it did drastically change the responses. But the bottom line is, by the end of that process, we've now looked for all the valuable things that we wanted to do, that we want to protect, rather. We've looked at where everything is, and then all the threats that could happen. How bad would it be? Determine our risk and what are we doing to protect it, and see if it's looking pretty good. And we write up a report, and we then use that report to build our risk management plan. And it's then a loop. It's a loop, an infinite loop. And you can add in little mini risk analysis where I'm just going to focus on, I'm going to update this server. Well, let me write up all the things that could go wrong here, make a list, show that I've evaluated it, have some really good documentation and a plan for if things go wrong. Mm-hmm. And most of the time you do it anyway. That's what I love the guy today that I'm talking to. He's a developer, and he's, you're going to make me rise. And so I take him through it. I was like, if you're not already doing these things, you should be doing these things, thinking them through, evaluating them, making decisions about them. You shouldn't just blow right by them, because this is how I make sure I secure things. If I blow right by them, I'm not even trying. So then he's like, okay, he'll give me that. And I was like, all I want you to do is write them down. Mm-hmm. That's it. Write down what you considered. Write down the decisions you've made, and then let me have them. That's it. That's what I'm looking for from a developer. Then he goes, oh, so you want me to eat my broccoli? Yeah, I just want you to be healthy. That's it. So unless you're allergic to broccoli, then not so much. Maybe asparagus. I don't know. I always hate it when I go to do those presentations, and at lunch, I'm supposed to have lunch and then I'm supposed to speak, and they give you broccoli, and, just as they're announcing me, I look over at whoever's beside me and go, how my teeth?
You got a tree growing between your teeth.
I know. It's like a whole stalk is sticking out between my two front teeth, And there you are on the big screen. But anyway, that whole... there you go, another risk analysis.
I know, they're everywhere.
I determined that, so you're doing them all the time. The difference is taking the time to write them down and truly think about everything that's going wrong or that could go wrong. And then you determine, well, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to outsource it and, send David across the road? Am I going to outsource it, have David help me walk across the road? Which one? What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. That's a risk analysis.
I'll stop traffic, and then you can walk across the road.
Oh, there you go. There's a million ways that we can do that, that we can solve that crossing the road problem.
Build a bridge, go over the road.
Yeah. There you go. It seems like it might not be reasonable and appropriate, but it is an option.
Yeah, it is.
And there's where we get into reasonable and appropriate in our environment.
Mm-hmm. Get a human slingshot, get you across there quicker.
Of course. And that's, hey, y'all, watch this.
No, that's HIPAA done easy.
Slingshot.
The human cannonball. HIPAA made easy. We'll get you there, but I don't know how we'll get there.
Look out for the landing.
I know.
You have to wear a blindfold, a helmet, some pads, a parachute. Yep. We're good to go.
Yeah. It's, the flight's great. It's just that sudden stop at the end that'll get you.
I know. I always used to fly with my boss, my mentor. I still miss him to this day. He left, us a long time ago. And he always would fly, and he would always tell people, you realize that landing is nothing more than a controlled crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially that's it. But it's all about looking at it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. So there you have it. And then back to where we were saying, most people come in with a gap analysis that says, I've done a risk analysis because I did a gap analysis. Yeah, that's the loop you don't want to be in.
Yep.
All right,
true.
so there you have it.
Yes.
We've covered how irony can happen in healthcare and doing a risk analysis, worrying about a dumpster, worrying about a box sitting next to a dumpster, worrying about a box being mailed to an employee and with their desk being cleaned out.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that if you build policies and procedures in place to prevent them or at least reduce them drastically, you don't end up in the news, which is really where you want to be. And I don't want to stay out of the news by lying and hiding. I'd rather stay out of the news by just doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. So what is it about the network printers again?
Jeez, let's don't even go there.
Oh, all right, folks, that is our 3-year show for today. Please remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media sites and rate us on our podcasting app. Hey, look, we need your help to spread the word. Believe it or not, 3 years in, we still need your help. So help us out there. As always, you can send your questions or ideas to contact@helpmewithhipaa.com. And I'm sure we'll talk about you in some form or fashion if you send something in. So remember.
Unless you tell us, don't say a word about me.
Yeah. And then we'll say a word about somebody who might have said something like that.
Then we'll come up with a name.
Yeah. So remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.